Go. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Joel. It's good to have you with us for this webinar session, right? This is normally the time of the week that we do something we call the weekly briefing. And we are actually not doing our regularly scheduled programming because instead we're talking about this topic today. It's called the surprising psychology of success. 4 owners, 4 shifts. I'm very excited to welcome. We actually have 5 owners because we're gonna have more than just myself. I'm gonna do like a full introduction of these folks once we get into the topic, but I want to just at least briefly acknowledge everyone that's here. I'm just going to go in my order of Hollywood squares I see here. So Cristina and Val from Brazilero Studios, say hello. They're waving.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone.
All right. The Mr. Eric Singer from Coupe Studios in Boulder in my backyard. Say hi.
Good day.
Brian and Karen from, well, I'm going to say Bottle, but maybe we're going to hear a story about the name of this company that they run. So say hi to both of you.
Hello.
I have Tristan and Jaime from, is it Studio Black, or are we going to make a little announcement?
Is it? Hey, everyone.
Nice.
There's two.
We'll play it at Comedy Rules. Yes, and.
Yes, there we go.
Exactly.
Well, that's a little tease of what's to come to everyone here that's showing up. And then finally, our friend Patrick Mallek from Mighty Fudge. Greetings, Patrick.
Hello, everyone.
Good to have you all with us. I'm going to spotlight myself for the moment. Let's see if this works, because I'm going to bring each of these owners back, and they're going to share a bit of their story, recent story of transformation, of growth, things that they've been learning around this idea. But I want to provide some context and some background as we get into it so we all know what we're talking about and we can all maybe have something to hang these ideas on. So with that, let me first start off by sharing, here's our agenda. We have a full hour. Hopefully we won't use the whole hour, but let me share my screen. And Emmett, can you see my keynote?
Yes, sir.
All right. So first of all, let me just say this. If you don't know me, I'm Joel from RevThink. I am a consultant to creative entrepreneurs, and at RevThink, we are empowering the owner-driven studio. If you're not a member of our community and you run a business, maybe it's a studio, a production company, a creative agency, we certainly invite you to be a part of our community and be part of the tribe of creative business owners that are crushing it. With that, here's our agenda. Here's what we're going to cover in the next, hopefully much less than 60 minutes. I'm going to first talk about some background, this concept called Seasons of the Creative Firm, and then a key insight called the Great Unlearning. The Great Unlearning. Then I'm going to go into the first shift. We're going to talk about this topic of focus, and this is where I'm going to drag Tristan and Jaime into the conversation so you can hear a bit about their story. Then number 2, we'll get into positioning. Always fun. I'm going to drag Eric, is my willing victim on this one from Coupe. Shift 3 is qualifying. This is where I'll tap on Brian and Karen at Bottle. And then our 4th shift is selling and pricing. I'm going to ask Val and Cristina to share a bit about their story and their experience with that. Then I'll do a bit of a recap. And then lastly, but not leastly, if that's a word, we'll do a thing I'm calling Making the Leap. And Patrick, you have no idea what I'm going to ask you to talk about here. So just be ready. he's like, he's learning to roll with it. So then we'll wrap up. So that's our agenda. So let me get started here and share, first of all, this concept, the background here. So if you're watching this, you're a business owner, you run some sort of a creative studio or production company, something like that. Here's what we have observed, okay? In all of my years of working as a consultant, which is now about 8 years, but I ran a creative business for 20 years before that. And I've noticed this trend now over several hundred companies. And this is not exact, this is not prescriptive, and this is not a formula. This is an observation that there are these seasons that your business goes through. You start up, then you're in this emerging season, thriving season, and mature season. And you can see down here at the bottom, there's even some numbers. The revenue ranges okay, tend to be in these kinds of ranges for the maturity of your company. And there's even a team size roughly correlates. About 1 to 3 people, you're in that startup season. 4 to 8 people, maybe you're in that emerging season. 8 to 32 thriving, and then 32 and beyond. Those are those mature companies. So what do we know? Well, this is the journey that we're all on. And it's not necessarily one of growth for growth's sake. It's not about growing necessarily in size or revenue, although that does tend to happen. It's really a growth of maturity, and you as a business owner having the freedom and control you want to create the future that you desire. That's really kind of why we all got into this business. It's all about, I want to do the kind of work I want to do and have the life I want to live. Now, here's what happens. There's this thing called the gap. And I just call it the gap because as you evolve your business from that startup into that emerging season, getting into that next season, there's this obstacle that stands in the way. And a lot of people get stuck here, and they can be frustrated for, well, I don't know, I was going to say, Patrick, how long have you been in business now? I'm just thinking of you. I'm channeling Patrick.
Yeah, no, I've been, I fell in that gap 10 years ago and I'm still down there.
Okay. So,
oh my God.
and I personally, in my story, I was in that gap for about 7 years. And I thought I was doing great. I mean, I was making money and running a business, but I knew there was the potential for so much more, and I was stuck. So I want to talk about this gap today and what are the mindset shifts that owners have to go through in order to bridge this gap. All right, so here's what I want to point out. How many of you remember in the early years when you started your business, you were in the startup season? And if I said to you, here are 4 fundamental mindsets that you had when you were in that startup season, you would say, yes, do whatever it takes. Next, you would say, sure, let's imitate the winners, okay? Those studios, those people out there that we admire, let's imitate them. Next, you would say, seize every opportunity, right? Take whatever you can get. And then fourth, you would say, charge competitive rates. Yeah, you got to, charge the kind of the going rate, if you will. Now, I chose these 4 things for a very specific reason, because each of them is attached to a mindset that, guess what? Here's the bad news. The insight is, I call this the great unlearning. I'm laughing because I've been through this. The mindset that you learned in the startup season is the mindset which must be unlearned in the emerging season. Okay, if you want to get into that thriving season where things are really firing on all cylinders. And this great unlearning is very hard because guess what? If I was to go back and ask you which of these is not true, which of these do you have to let go of? You would say, well, no, those are all true. Those are what made me successful. And I would say to you, yes, but there's something deeper, more true that's going to push you further. And you're going to have to unlearn these things. Okay, so with that, how would we do that? I'm going to give a little context here. How would you do that? Well, first of all, I would say there's a conventional wisdom out there that says, okay, Brazilero, okay, Mighty Fudge, just produce great creative work and the rest will take care of itself. How many people here have heard that type of thinking, right? Just be great at the work and everything else will work out. Well, here's the reality, okay? If you're going to make this move as you evolve your company, what it really takes is you'll find out that creative is just the tip of the iceberg. That beneath creative is something that I'm calling here selling and pricing. I mean, you got to be great at knowing how to sell and price and win those better clients with those bigger budgets. Well, how would you do that? Well, there's something beneath that called qualifying. And this is how you select who are the right fits and who are the people that are going to move your business forward. Positioning, okay? You got to put your name out there and be recognized and be the special unicorn that you are and be recognized by the marketplace. Well, where does that come from? Here we are at the foundation of it all, focus. You've got to be focused. So now you can see, okay, if we're going to do all that great creative work, and create the future we want, we got to build all these pieces and parts. So this is the model I'm going to sort of refer back to as we go along here. And this is where I'm going to start inviting some of these folks to join the stage with me. All right, let me get Jaime and Tristan. Make sure your cameras and mics are on so I can drag you into this. Are you with me?
Oh yeah,
Check.
let's do it.
Okay, so first of all, let me just introduce you guys and allow you to introduce yourselves and turn off my spotlight and spotlight you guys. So do me a favor, and just for everyone here, each of you guys just say who you are and tell us something about your company.
Sure.
You go first.
I'm Tristan Valencia.
There you go.
I'm the founding principal here at Studio Black, and we are a creative and technical advisory firm.
Jaime, you're good.
Hello. I'm Jaime Macias. I am a creative and product executive here with the studio as well. And through this process and through Joel, his pleasant pushing, we are Studio Black. And after this next couple of days, we are going to be known as Thought Process. So I'll just throw that out there early, that big changes and are going on.
So just so everyone heard you correctly, you guys are changing the name of your company. Wow. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you? I mean, just give us the super quick version. Why are you changing the name?
Well, you showed that graphic at the beginning of this conversation of kind of building to the top of the pyramid, and really we having just completed Jumpstart, we kind of threw ourselves fully into that process in our current iteration as Studio Black. And what we found was that in order for us to really build that foundation, we needed to go all the way back to really who we are. And after some really deep thinking and back and forth and long discussions and a lot of time with Joel, it was decided that the best way to take advantage of those processes and build that appropriately was to change the name of the studio. I mean, I've known each other for a really long time, so
I think it has to do with that gap as well, and
Sure.
where we want to lead people and what we want to provide. That positioning piece and the focus around it, I think it really does start with the name. Who is it that you're trying to introduce to your clients and colleagues and to the industry? And one of the things that we felt, although we had some personal identification with the studio name, what we want to do and where we want to take it and how we want to kickflip over that gap is really about smarter and earlier planning, pricing, thinking, and really bringing our expertise to the table to make the change you also talk about getting out of just being someone who executes for brands and agencies and really a partner that sits alongside them and helps lead them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super pumped about the name because I know when you guys went through this process and ultimately decided, man, we got to change the name. The name you came up with, Thought Process, I think is freaking brilliant. It's kind of that like, wait a minute. Yes, nobody's taken that name yet. That's brilliant. Well, I want to ask you guys this question. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because when we talk about this question of focus, I'm wondering if you can relate to this, right? That there was this season of your business where you were in this mindset called do whatever it takes. And the pattern that I've noticed through a couple hundred companies that have made this evolution is they get to a place where they focus on their genius. And I know that's a bit of a loaded term, right? I'm just really curious to hear from you guys. What has this journey been like for you? How did you, what did you learn? What's the shift that you're making from this, just do it all, take whatever comes, do whatever it takes, to being very focused as partners and your roles in the business?
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Jaime, you want to lead that?
He threw me for a curve there at the end. I'll try to figure it out, but I think that this has kind of gone hand in hand, or really opened up my brain. You know, we're talking from a studio standpoint, but I think I've mentioned in some of the other calls, I think the positioning and the focus that even personally, as a creative executive, as a business partner to Tristan, as someone who says, I do this for these types of clients who are similar to me to have these types of results, I've also kind of been applying this internally, just like when I wake up in the morning, how am I positioned to myself? What am I focused on? What am I going to do? And I think that's the true change. It's kind of happening throughout the entire Russian nesting doll of identity, studio, work, reputation. But the awesome thing about that is I think it provides an opportunity for change and course adjustment with the true seed and momentum of something that's already working. So the goal really is to get across that gap, get into that growth, but using all the momentum, capital, and relationships we already have. So that's the piece I think we're figuring out. But I do think it does happen between us as partners as well. You know, we've had conversations lately and we're figuring out, like, you know, where are we really going to put the weight of our own genius and expertise, and also trying to make space to bring some other people into the equation as well. I think that's a really important part of that gap as well. You know, pandemic aside, we had kind of retreated to a smaller size and have been happy with, like, oh, there's a lot of fat there. There's a lot of premium pricing. There's a lot that you can keep as cream off the top when you have a smaller overhead. And I think we're now choosing in a very strong way to grow and to bring other experts that are complementary to our genius into the mix so that we can, you know, kind of get to that thriving season with an all-star team.
So Tristan, I'm curious if I was going to share with everyone my quick definition of genius, which is, what are those things that you love doing, that bring you energy, and that produce really big results? Going through the process of getting clear about that and identifying that, and maybe where you and Jaime are different.
Yep.
How's that impacted the way you guys run your business?
Yeah. So as Jaime mentioned, we are a pretty small and tight team, which inevitably leads to everybody wearing multiple hats, and that can become a bit of a drain on finding your genius, as you put it, when you're trying to manage all of this other stuff. You know, all the plates are in the air. Somebody's got to do it. We're a 4-person squad, right? There's no, oh, I'm sorry, it didn't get done. It has to happen. Well, and Jaime and I have known each other for a really long time. Before we were business partners, we've been friends and family for the past 25 years or so. And I know that, you know, there are things that he enjoys doing that I don't enjoy doing, and there are things that I enjoy doing that he doesn't do it. And that exercise of, like, finding your genius really allowed us to kind of hone in on those things so that we can build this future iteration of ourselves and of the company in a way that allows us to do those things that we're really good at. I know I like to be out and doing the networking, business development, relationship stuff. And it's usually very successful when I'm being able to do that, and that specifically.
Right.
Can I manage projects? Sure. Can I be a production manager or a coordinator? Absolutely. Do I get sucked into that sometimes now? 100%. And the same with Jaime. I know that he feels much better being his full creative self and ideating and being able to think about the best ways for our clients to adopt Web3 technologies mixed with you know, non-traditional aspect ratio LED wall kind of stuff, right? And if I can build, and if we can build appropriately around ourselves so that he can do that 98 or even 90% of his time, and be successful and be happy in it, we know the rest is going to fall into place. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited to see, because when I know that you guys are really more clear about your roles, and you're also really clear about, okay, now I know what we need to delegate to that next team member, right? So that we can continue more and more focused. Well, thanks for sharing that, and congrats on the name change. Do you guys have an estimate on how long until we'll see, like, the front door of this new brand?
Before you put us in front of people again, we can drop the whole preamble. We will have it.
We put a bid on the domain today, so we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, I've changed some DBA stuff in the background, right? The EIN number, all the guts that nobody gets to see are already in motion. So it's happening.
Yeah. We have all the good enough parts, and we're grabbing for some brass ring namespaces. It's going to be good.
Well, it sounds like you guys are running a business is exactly what it sounds like. So thank you for thank you for sharing your experience. All right.
Thanks for having us back, Joel.
You got it. I'm going to unspotlight you guys here and go back to my keynote, and we'll get on to what's our next shift? Our next shift is getting into positioning. Now, man, many of you know I am crazy passionate about positioning. It's almost like this unraveling of once you get into this, answering this question well, who are you? What does your company do? It's like this endless, bottomless pit of navel gazing and trying to figure out the way to say it and all this. And I'm excited to bring on Mr. Eric Singer. I'm laughing because Eric, first of all, tell us who you are, tell us what Coupe Studios is, and now you're on the spot. There it is.
With my new positioning?
Yes, of course.
All right. Well, Joel, thank you for asking. Coupe Studios Music and Sound Design is the branded audio company.
Well, that was fast. Holy cow. So I'm really curious to hear, now, how would you have answered that question, say, a year or two ago?
Oh, Coupe Studios. We got a studio in Boulder. We do music for movies and commercials, and we do sound design and ADR, and we do podcasts and just kind of all things audio for anyone ever in the world.
and I'm not getting a lot of confidence and clarity out of the way you did that. And would it be safe to say as well that, how many people are on your team? A dozen or 15 or something like that? So if I had asked every single one of them separately, like if I took one of them into a private room and said, what does Coupe Studios do? I probably would have gotten 15 different answers, right?
Yep, probably all that convoluted, but probably all some version of, we do a little bit of everything.
Okay. And so I'm going to put forward my quick little theory here, and you tell me if this resonates with you, okay? Because when we're talking about positioning, this is the principle a lot of us have in these early years of the business, right? Imitate winners. Now, the reason I chose that phrase is think about how many of us, when we started, we look at our competitors and we say, well, how do they talk about themselves? And they seem to be successful. So we go and grab some language, or we borrow the way they say it, and we just kind of do this milquetoast Wikipedia type of description of who the company is or what we do. And what I say is the companies that make this shift, they carve out their positioning. And I use that word carve there, and I think you can relate to it, Eric. What has been your experience of going through this process of challenging the conventional wisdom of, you describe what you do and you list your services and so forth, to now having this very crisp positioning statement that you have now? Why is that important?
So to answer the first part of your question, how has it been? It's been scary as hell, because I think largely where we are geographically, we're in Colorado. We're not in Chicago, LA, or New York. Basically, all of our competitors are. So we're already at a little bit of a disadvantage. We already have a harder time getting people to take us seriously because we're not in a major market. So it has been scary to sort of pigeonhole ourselves into like, oh yeah, we can do everything audio. That is what we do. To no, we're really good at this specific thing. The second part of your question, I've already forgotten. Damn it.
Why is it important?
It's important for two main reasons. One is we're all going to make a whole bunch more money. And two is we're going to get to work on the kinds of projects we actually want to work on.
Okay, wait a minute. That's a really loaded statement. I didn't like fully anticipate you hitting me with that. Why would positioning lead to bigger budget work? And I kind of get the idea of why it might lead you to doing more of the work you want to do, but like help us understand how that sounds too good to be true, honestly.
Let me bust out some visual aids. May I?
Yeah, please.
I can share a screen here. Let's see. All right. So here is, I'm being very vulnerable as my marriage.
Oh my God,
counselor
this is
would say.
amazing. Yeah, how the sausage is made right here.
Yeah. So here's what a really shitty project looks like for us.
Yep.
This is actually like current. I wish I could say this is a bid from a year ago, but no, this is a job we're going to do this week, and I wish we weren't. So it's purely a commodity. People are paying us for studio time and for drops of music licenses. And if we keep doing strictly jobs like this, well, it's not going to go well. So that was sort of the old model, very structured, very commodity based. Let me now whip out what I've started to
And I want
as our
anyone that's watching, I want you to think about even what Eric's sharing here, because the way that you are positioned influences how you can price, the way that you charge, and the way you describe your expertise. Because if you describe your expertise in terms of hours and rates and line items, that says something very different than I think what he's about to show us.
Totally. So what I'm about to show is a bid for a job that when it came in, it was basically about the same amount as that bad job. It was probably going to be about $1,000 or $1,500 job. Basically, someone called and said, "Hey, I got this video. I just need you guys to mix it." And through the miracle of the upsell, I ended up steering that conversation from, "Hey, I need 5 hours of studio time," to, "Oh, this is a startup that really cares about their branding. It seems like they need an audio brand. Let's talk about that."
And that obviously was was that like a 2x or 5x type of sized engagement by the time you got them through that process?
So it went from probably $1,000 to, well, you'll see. So here's the old estimate you saw was just a shitty export out of QuickBooks. There's no room for anything creative. There's no room for options. The new estimate template looks like this. So we sort of first establish ourselves as experts and start telling them about what they need to know about sonic branding and why it's important to them. Talk about specifically why this could be effective for them. Talk about what the components could be. Talk about what we may be offering them, and then we get into our 3 packages here.
Yeah.
So we're leading with the highest cost package. So we went from $1,000 or $1,500 to maybe 18,000.
So 10x roughly.
10x. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then.
And did you start this conversation?
Sorry.
Oh, Eric, did you start this conversation with that? Did you frame it up from the very beginning with that new positioning that asserts that expertise?
In this case, I did because it's sort of cryptocurrency adjacent thing, and they're very active on social, of course. And I was like, hey, these guys have to have a sonic brand. And so I pretty much right into that.
Wow. Well, this is incredible seeing again how the sausage is made. And if I'm gonna sort of translate or pick up on the meta here for people that are like, wait, what does this mean again? Essentially what I'm hearing you say is the repositioning allowed you to come back to a place where you can clearly enunciate and articulate what is it that we do, what's our expertise, right? What's the value that we can presumably produce if we join forces. And that puts you in a totally different place from the very beginning of the conversation with a client, rather than, 3 months down the road, you finally show them proposals and they say, what, we weren't expecting this. This is way too expensive, because they've perceived you as a vendor all along.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how, I want to switch to our next topic before we go too long. How fired up are you and the team about this like restatement of of who you are and what you're about?
I'm ridiculously fired up about it. I mean, I feel like it changes really everything about our business. Like, I feel so good about what we do, and I feel so unashamed asking for the bigger dollars, because we are worth it. We are going to deliver the value that they need. And yeah, it's an awesome feeling. It's been really, really revolutionary. And I am so stoked to roll this out to our team, because I haven't done that yet. And I think that's going to be really fun, and everybody's going to get stoked.
Well, I'm kind of getting goosebumps, because I'm thinking of this like stepping into your awesomeness that's been there all along, but maybe it wasn't properly expressed, or there wasn't, like, you didn't have that banner that you could go to war under, but now you have that, right? You have that, like, here's what we're going to march under and go crush it. Like we have always known we are capable of, but this will help propel us to the next level.
That's it.
Super cool. Wow. Well, please give Eric a high five and shout out for, again, showing us how the sausage is made. That was super awesome. And thank you, Eric. Big fan of Coupe Studios. And I'll see you tonight at at the event. So looking forward to that.
There we go.
All right. Okay. What's our next topic here? Because we're going to get into, let me go back to my keynote here. I want to bring on Brian and Karen, and we're going to talk about qualifying, which is a bit of a wonky sales term, but let me see if I can, first of all, find them. Here we go. Oh, sweet. You guys are on one camera. That makes it so much easier. Hey there, guys.
We tried. Hey, Bill.
Can you introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about your company, and do you want to share your screen, or should I share my screen? I think you've got something, you probably have something that's better representation than what I can show.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, Ben, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Before we unveil the terrible
okay,
site.
sorry. So I'm Karen. I'm the production manager, but it's like I think Jaime or Tristan was saying earlier, we wear a lot of hats. And we are, am I saying our old name or our new name?
Say our new name, forget our old name for now.
Okay, we are Bottle, and we are the studio that uncorks creativity and serves media that doesn't taste flat.
Nice.
And
Brian,
I'm Brian. I'm the owner as well, along with Karen, and creative director. So yes.
Well, you guys obviously, yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what Bottle does so we can understand your jam.
Yeah, so we went from Duo Media Productions, which is a name we did not pick ourselves, and going through Jumpstart twice now, it became very clear the first time that we needed to make a name switch. So we're not talking about positioning today, but that is where we're at in our journey right now, is that we are working on that, the positioning and the renaming and the rebranding and all of that stuff. And we do a lot of videos and animations is what we kind of the nitty gritty behind what we do.
So here's the context that for what I want to pick your brains about. If I go back to my screen here, this has been my observation that companies in that startup season, or the ones that sort of get stuck there, have this belief called seize every opportunity, right? Take every opportunity, take every job that comes your way, grab everything you can. And that's certainly good for a season. And then you get into this next season and you start saying no in order to say yes, right? You're saying no to things because you start recognizing, wow, if we are not only clear about what it is that we call a good fit in terms of a client, in terms of a project, in terms of a budget, once we get clear about that, then we kind of know what we're looking for. And we start like going out to the universe and finding it, and there's this magical thing that happens that tends to show up. But if we're just taking everything that comes our way, we just wake up one day and say, what the hell, how did we get here? I'm just really curious to hear, what has been your experience on this journey of learning about qualifying? And feel free to talk about the 3 Rs or the 3Ds or some of those concepts that we've learned.
Absolutely. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So
go.
I want to show you the website, guys. This is the We Say Yes to Everything website. Still currently our live website. I am very sorry. And I'm going to tab over to the Say Yes to Say No website. Let me know if you guys can see the switch.
Yes.
You guys, cool. So for us, I think the 3 Rs and 3Ds were one of the first things that we implemented from the Jumpstart, because it was pretty easy to, because we get quite a lot of calls for work, and it became like very clear how much time we were wasting with leads that were ultimately going to go nowhere, that we can pretty quickly rule out now. The hardest thing for us, and one thing that we just did recently in a big way, was like saying no to a number, like a dollar number that was previously a big number, right? So we had a client come in wanting to do awards modules for like some kind of airline awards show, and we bid it out to about 17,000. And he said, well, they really only have about 10. So I talked to the team, because 10,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And we looked at it, and the bid was very solid that we'd put together. And we ultimately said no, because of course the hours weren't there, even if the number was right. And we had this like epiphany that like, if someone hands you $10,000 for like a birthday gift, that's a lot of money. If someone asks you to work for a year or more for 10,000, that's not a lot of money. And it is hard to let that go, even though it's going to be a nightmare. So we let it go. Right. And they came back and said, let me see if we can get more money. So we don't know where that's going yet, but that's already at least moving us in the right direction. We were very apologetic. We talked about minimum engagement, and that was a really kind of freeing moment for us to be like, we just saved ourselves a headache and possibly earn some respect with the client, at least when he goes, because he's always getting work in, he's looking for a good editor, and so now he knows kind of where we stand. So when they're ready for us, we'll be ready.
Yeah.
Well, in case it's helpful to anyone that doesn't know these two concepts, we define the 3 Rs as the way that we know any given opportunity. Why do we take any given opportunity, right? And we say it's for the real, for the relationship, or for the reward. And then the 3Ds are those qualifiers we use when we say, okay, but is this project real? Meaning, can I move forward in confidence knowing that this person truly has intent to engage anyone, much less us? And that's the deadline, the dollars, and the decision maker. And those two concepts, I hear you guys starting to embrace them. And I mean, I could tell a lot of anecdotes, but I'm just curious, so far, have you found the experience to be hopefully gratifying, where you recognize, you look back on a year's worth of projects, and you say, well, which of these were really wins for us? And you say, gosh, they didn't really have many of the 3 Rs. What if we started to just say yes to these kinds of things, and again, either improve these other things or say no to them? Over time, that's going to produce a pretty big result. What's your take on that?
Well, even just recently, we went through our list of clients, and there were still not a ton of them that had all 3 Rs. There are plenty that have 2 Rs. I think we even found one or two that had 1 R or 0 Rs. And that was a little eye-opening for some of those clients that we thought were maybe a good client, but maybe we need to move on and call them the life's too short clients. So that's a friend of ours says that. He's like, I don't take on clients unless it's worth my while. So
the 3Ds we found, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The 3Ds we found, it's almost like you're a psychiatrist to another company, and you have them on the couch and they realize how dysfunctional their team is, because when we casually say like, hey, who's the decision maker, and they can't answer it and they have no idea, or when you guys need this, we don't know. And of course, by the time you get to dollars, that's they always keep that one secret. So we don't try and make them feel bad, but you can tell that moment where they go deer in the headlights and you're like, uh-oh, we're not ready for this. And they're asking questions that we weren't prepared for in a very easy way. So
trying to find out who the decision maker is can be really hard. They don't want to share that information, or sometimes they flat out tell you, yeah, I can make the decisions, and then you find out later in the process they actually couldn't make the decisions. We've had that happen where we've gone through the entire process, and then they finally at the end show it to the actual decision maker, and he completely hated everything. He was like, this isn't what I wanted at all. And that project ended up dying completely.
So
So
what's the takeaway here? Like if you were going to encourage someone to embrace this idea of, hey, really level up on qualifying,
yeah.
what's going to be the difference maker when you guys look at the year ahead, right? And you say, there's kind of a before and after here. What's that delta?
What's really scary at first, right? To say no to any sort of work. But you really got to be brave and just trust that this will work out for the best, to use these tools, and trust yourself that you're worth it, that your work is worth the time and the money and the decision. Like if people can't actually make the decision and give you a deadline, that's just not, you need to tell yourself that you're actually worth it. Sorry, this is turning into like a self-help thing here.
But that you are worth it.
But it is. And yeah, did you have?
Yeah, it's also finding, like, because when you do say no, sometimes you will wait for that next person you can say yes to, and it's finding, like, giving yourself that opportunity to work on, like, yourself. So work on, like, the company and creating new things or trying new things or just maintaining that creativity, because it's easy to get into a slump when you're like, watching your pipe drive. You're kind of like, we could probably pick up some more, and you get tempted to say yes to a job is bad, but like holding to your guns and just kind of like just continuing to make neat things, and people will respond to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think also, like, if you take a look at your own clients, your own projects that you've worked on in the past year, look at the ones that were the cheapest ones you did, or had the deadline of ASAP, or any of the issues here that you kind of have dealt with, and tell me that those were the clients that were your best clients. They're not going to be. None of your best clients are going to be the ones that don't have a lot of these things. If you're looking back on your year's worth of projects, the ones that are going to be the worst ones are the ones that are the cheapest ones. They're the most needy ones. It's just like, that's what we've always experienced. It's like, wow, why did we take this job? This turned out to be so much more work than it was.
We and real quick, we find that, like, if you're going to pick two R's, real and relationship are good, because, like, with our church, we do some videos. They pay us what they can, but they're very, like, graphic driven church, so they really push us hard. So we've made some pretty banging, like, show openers. Basically, they encourage us, and that's actually gotten us work with people. Are like, hey, I saw what you did. Let's do something bigger. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, to your point, I think there's just a simple truth in, if you're currently accepting those things that are bad fits, that's your way of saying, I want more of that.
Yeah.
So don't get mad when you wake up a year, 2, 3 years from now, and it's like, that's all I have. Because until you change what you're looking for, that's what qualifying is. It's just creating a simple set of rules. So like you said, Brian, so when you're in that conversation, you can really quickly, efficiently, not have conversations that drag out for weeks and months. It's like, look, you're not ready. When you're ready, call us. We're happy to help you. We're experts. We'll crush it. So there's a lot of nice benefits to be gained. Well, guys, congratulations on the shift to bottle. We'll be keeping our eyes on that change. Very, very proud of you guys for doing that. And thanks for sharing your experience with us. Good luck with everything.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks for having us on.
You got it. All right, we got concept number 4, our shift. We're now going to go into our last main point, where we're going to talk with Val and Cristina, 2 of my favorite people in the world, to talk about selling and pricing. I know, I just saw them go, really? Wow. All right, let me see if I can find, there they are. Say hello, Val. Say hello, Cristina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Val.
My name is Cristina.
Cristina, my better half.
We're husband and wife, co-founders of Brazilero Animation.
Yeah, probably we can do later one-on-one session with Brian and Karen on how to run a creative business. Right. But that's later.
I love it. So tell us, what does Brazilero do?
A short disclaimer here, we're not from Brazil.
But we do love making things move in a contagious Brazilian creative style.
Yeah.
Love it. Can I show your website as you guys tell us the type of work that you do and all that sort of stuff? All right, let me find, wait, I didn't find my Safari, it disappeared. Hang on.
I can share it on my.
Yeah, please do. Give us a look at your at your homepage and just tell us maybe the kind of work you do, the type of clients you work for.
Oh, I think I have a technical issue.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
It's
Okay,
okay.
Joe,
I can bring it up. Go ahead,
Maybe you
Val.
can share our website.
Yeah.
Something with the settings.
I got it. You go for it.
So yeah, we started by working on mostly 2D animation, but now we're not selling video anymore. We're selling creative solution for video marketing, and that does not include only video. So it depends on the client, the needs. We dive deeper in their, needs, necessities, and come up with the creative solution that fits all of their requirements. So this is what we do in a nutshell. Yeah.
And look, oh, my favorite word in a positioning statement. You guys get a gold star for putting that word "the" in there. Nicely done. All right, so I would love to get your perspective on this fourth shift here, because when we're building up these different layers into this overall psychology of success, here's what I find to be true, and I'm curious for your perspective, right? In the early years of your studio, and because you guys come from Moldova, this mindset may have even been more of an issue, right? Charge competitive rates, right? We can't charge as much as all those big guys because. And then you wake up one day and you get into this next season and you unlearn that and you learn a different thing called charge like an expert. And it's so interesting, Cristina, what you just said, I think laid the groundwork, right? It created an expectation in my mind, the way you said, well, we don't just do this list of services. We don't do animation. We don't do motion design. We solve problems. We create solutions. And my brain was immediately saying, well, that sounds really valuable and more expensive. But I'm curious to hear, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, well, I'm coming from marketing field, and when I founded the studio, first of all, I was thinking that I need a company that will offer creative solution. But then I go in the wrong path and try to copy everything the other studio does. So basically, we're trying to sell 2D animation, and then we kind of like jumping into the US market, and we were not knowing any, pricing and how things work here. It was really different, and coming with a different mindset probably was really challenging to kind of like try to charge as an expert, to position ourselves as an expert. After a couple of, after a short time, we understood that we're not, how to say in English,
we're not like taking the most of
what we can offer.
What we can offer, yeah.
And I understood that we can do much more than that. And usually, the turn point was when the client kept coming back to us and asking, for example, for some additional deliverables after the project was done. And it was really hard working on that fragmented work, getting back to the project. So I came up with a solution. Why don't we dive deeper in their needs and start asking and listen and asking what are their issues, to kind of like try to cover in that initial offer all of their concerns, right? So that the client will not come back to us for some small deliverables. So instead of delivering just one video, we try to deliver multiple pieces of content that they can use in their marketing campaigns. For example, they can create a hero video that is 90 seconds long, but we can still deliver short edits of those video. That is prizes for social media, stills, creative assets, for example, that they can use for their landing page. Yeah. And so on and so forth. And it's all customizable depending on the client's need, because it depends. It is the B2C business or B2B. And then I actually find my genius working mostly on kind of like delivering the solution for the client.
Oh, cool. And
not trying to sell it as I did before. So yeah.
Well, Val, I'm curious to hear from your standpoint, when you think back, think back to when we first met in Moldova now quite a few years ago. Is it safe to say that you guys have raised your prices since those days?
Definitely.
Yes, yes, of course. And we're talking about not like 2x, but many x's worse. And it happened also because after we finished the first Jumpstart, we've also been through Jumpstart twice. And when we've been to the first Jumpstart, I don't know why.
We changed the position twice, I guess, yeah.
But we learned to ask every time our clients about the budget, right?
Yeah.
And we were like really surprised when at the beginning, having our Moldovan transitions from the Eastern European market to the US market and asking about the budget. So in some cases, the client uncovered the budgets that were like 40-50% better than we were like ready to put on the table, right? And we decided to ask about the budget at all the time. Like really, without this question, we are not like moving forward anymore.
Plus, there are this type of clients that are actually having a really low budget for their ask, and there's no time. Actually, it saves our time because we were actually creating the offers for them, and we spend it like days
putting the decks together, choose relevant samples.
We can focus that time for something else, right? And be more effective. So kind of like some of the clients that didn't work, they just
well, I'm curious because Val, obviously we could talk, and Cristina, we could talk a lot about some of the specifics, because there's anchoring, there's presenting options, there's speaking about value and delivering solutions rather than services and hours and rates and things like that. But if you were going to just sum up, what's the shift in the mindset of where you were before to where you are now? What's just the biggest thing that someone could hear and say, oh, I see what they're talking about?
Did you go?
Yeah.
For me, it will be since I'm doing more with this part of marketing and sales and everything. For me, it was like the moment when I realized that at the first meeting, at the first intro call, you should shut up and listen, right? No pitches, no talking.
Don't try to sell.
Don't try to sell. And the second shift, I can put it in two shifts, right? Two steps. When we start asking a specific question, or like at every meeting, what is important for you as our client in choosing of your next video production partner, right? And we were surprised how detailed is the information that we are receiving from our clients. And some of them were saying, okay, we want this, and that. This is our priority. This is our next priority. And like Cristina, we had recently a case, a client of ours was saying that our top priority is
we don't work with assholes.
We don't work with assholes, right? So
right.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good priority. We also don't work with assholes. We can agree here with you, and we've signed the contract with this company. So make it more about them, and then then this transition happens.
What I'm hearing is the idea that when you bring an expert mindset into the conversation, you start listening because you realize I'm going to diagnose before I prescribe. And if the person really describes the problem, I can see the true value and then recommend a solution that probably is a much, much higher price, and they will gladly pay it.
Yeah, the thing that I've noticed is sometimes we have solutions that are better than what the client is thinking about that it will work for them.
Sure.
So I was afraid at the beginning to kind of like pitch those solutions because kind of like the client knows better. But then I realized that I have to act, and we start offering them something that we consider is better for them rather than they consider that they need. And at the end, we end up kind of like signing those contracts rather than, just trying to confirm with the initial, requirements or whatever deliverables.
I'm incredibly proud of the journey that you guys are on, because making that shift from order taker to expert, right? I mean, it's a beautiful thing when you're able to tell a client, I know what you're asking, but that's not going to solve the problem. I know something you don't know, and that's why I'm here. And it's really valuable. It's really amazing. Let's go do this. And you turn those tables. I think it's really exciting. Well, look, I appreciate you guys sharing. By the way, good luck. I hope you I hope every new opportunity that comes your way has at least 40 or 50% more money than you expected, like the example you shared. And congratulations on all the success.
Thanks.
Yay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, let's continue here. We're going to let Val and Cristina go on their merry way. We only have a few more points to get through so we can wrap this up. I'm going to do a bit of a recap, and then I'm going to still call on Mr. Patrick Mallek. So Patrick, be ready for me. He's like, what? Who? He just did that squirrel look, which he knows all too well. Okay, look, if I'm going to recap, here's what I'm going to make this point. Let's go back. What have we covered here? Well, we know that our goal as a creative business owner is we want to produce great work, okay? Because great work is good money, it's great clients, it's the fame, the fortune, the freedom, all that we want. But to do that, the thesis I put forward here was we got to build it up. We got to build it from the ground up. We got to start with focus by identifying your genius and focus on that. We have to be great at positioning, which means we're going to carve out a positioning, okay? Like Eric described, Coupe's new positioning language that really puts out the statement of who you are and what you do in a unique way. Qualifying, this is you saying no so that you can say yes to those better fits and those better opportunities that drive your business forward. And obviously take advantage of your awesomeness. And then selling and pricing, we said, charge like an expert, like be the expert. Don't be an order taker. Don't be a vendor, be an expert. And this is how it all stacks up. And I'll say this, if you look at each of these 4 things, here's what happens. This is what I've seen happen a couple hundred times. You focus on your genius, you're going to, first of all, you're going to get really freaking good. You're going to be great if you focus. And what happens is that is very satisfying. It creates satisfaction in your business because you're doing the things you love. Positioning enables you to stand out, and I call this create a mini monopoly. Right? You're the only, like Coupe is the only studio that does that thing, right? Brazilero is the only studio that does that thing, all right? Patrick, Mighty Fudge, you're gonna tell us all about it. When you say no to say yes, you get to start flexing your expertise muscles because you're starting to tackle the projects that are a fit, that take advantage of your awesomeness, and you're letting the other things go away. Charge like an expert, well, this is easy. Once you start charging like an expert, you're gonna start winning better clients, and they have bigger budgets, and that's what gives you ultimately what you need, the resources you need to create the future. This is the kind of company that you want to run. Okay, with that, I want to bring my friend Patrick Mallek on. Where is he? I'm gonna
Over here.
add spotlight. He's over here. What's up, Patrick? Say hi, sir. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Patrick Mallek, Mighty Fudge Studios. I'm the head in charge of squirrel demolition and blowing things up in cartoon form. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Joel.
Dude, it's so good to have you here. Do you have is there anything that I can share that's like a representation? Because I know you're totally redoing your website. Is there anything that I can share that
Yeah, the website's under construction, but the homepage is up if you want to bring that up. Okay. And it has our demo reel on it, which is kind of the linchpin of our entire repositioning thing.
So tell us in a nutshell, is my screen sharing properly?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, great. So yeah, Patrick, in a nutshell, tell us what kind of work does Mighty Fudge do and who do you do it for?
We work with brands and networks, and we make cartoons. And not to say we don't make animation, but it's specifically this style of animation where things explode and things get run over by trucks and safes and pianos fall from the sky. And cartoon animals destroy each other. You know, the good old-fashioned stuff that we used to be called kids' cartoons back in the 50s. But that's what we do, and we really don't do much else. Well, we do other stuff, but we don't do anything else good. When you always talked about, what's your genius? What are you best at? What makes the biggest impact? It's making cartoons for us.
So, dude, you obviously have been through an experience where you got together with a group of your peers and myself and exposed yourself, quite honestly, to maybe the old principle of you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And I was just curious because I know you were going to watch this presentation and see these 4 peers of yours share their experience around genius, around positioning, around qualifying, around selling. I was just kind of curious to hear from you. What's your like, what's been your experience of opening yourself up to maybe some of these new ideas and new approaches on how to run your business?
Great. First things first. Yeah, everybody in the Jumpstart, man, wow. To see the transition from the beginning to the end was just blew me away. I still feel like I have work to do to catch up. Yeah, it was, honestly, I don't even know. I mean, going through the whole thing, we thought we knew exactly who we were, I think is the best way to put it. We thought for many years, we know exactly who we are. And when I first talked to you, I'm like, oh, I got this. You know, I got the niche, I got all this positioning stuff. And going through it and exposing ourselves made us realize that we didn't know who we were and what we were doing. And I kind of came into it with that attitude. And it was awesome to see where we ended up, to go from not just everything, not just the positioning that and learning how to sell, but just how we viewed ourselves and what we do best and what we need to do to be successful. We were doing the wrong thing the whole time. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, all these stories that everyone just told, I got every one of them. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, everything that everyone said here just happened. But yeah, for us, it was about, we thought we knew who we were, and we weren't that. We wanted to be that, but then we realized we didn't want to be that. We realized what we wanted to do was do this great work, which was never our problem. We always did great work, but we wanted to make more money doing it and that kind of stuff. And to see the shift from an order taker, as you called it earlier, you know, that's what we were. We were an order taker.
Right.
Someone wanted to pilot for a show, they'd call us, we'd be like, okay, here's what it costs, blah, blah, blah. Now we've thrown all that out, and now we're directing how we want to be seen and heard, and it's really refreshing. I'm liberated. I feel like there's 1,000,000 pounds of weight has been lifted off of me, because I'm not carrying around this burden of what we didn't really want to be in the first place. Now I took your advice. We get up every morning. I get up first thing. I spend the first 2 hours of my day just over there at the table, just making funny shit, making people laugh.
Right.
And the rest of the day, I do all the boring stuff, like write the proposals and do the anchoring and all that shit. But that's just been such a change in attitude. I can't wait to see where it goes. And it's already leading places in the few short weeks we've been doing it. So, yeah, it's great.
Well, I remember it was so fun every time I would get on a call with you each week, because you were always so effusive, maybe is the word. You have a great command of vulgarities and expletives, which is always entertaining. But you were always like, oh my God, why haven't I been doing this all along? I always thought it was this, but it's actually that. So, I mean, I guess the question I would just want to sort of wrap up with is, what do you think is now possible, right? Like, do you feel like you have a path that's going to propel you for the next year or 5 or 10?
I think what's possible now is reaching out to people and making contacts with people that I never would have maybe dared to do. And I'm a pretty gutsy guy, and I'll throw it into the wind, but I would have never had the confidence just to reach out and say, hey, to some of these, I've worked with Nickelodeon, I've worked with big studios, but I would say I could reach out to anybody at this point. There's nobody that I wouldn't be afraid, or I would just be proud to be like, hey, look what we do. I think that's the biggest thing. Is before it was, I think you said it best when you saw our old website. Like, what the hell do you do? I mean, we didn't even know. Now I'm like, hey, look what we do, and we're the best at that, and that's cool. You know what I mean? That gives me power. So I can't wait to unleash that power.
So is the what's next for you? What's the next thing you're trying to put in place? This puzzle, right? What's the next piece that you're working on?
The holy grail for me is the social media, the community building, and that's what I'm really going to focus on next. But I also feel better about doing that now, because I feel like I actually have a reason to put myself out there. Whereas, like I talked about in the early days of the internet, we were kind of kings at that. And then social media came along, and we were just like, what the hell are we supposed to do now? But now I feel like we've got this. I just feel very confident and very cool. Even just locally in our community, just being able to reach out and just not be, not be afraid of that question, because it always came back, right? Hey, we're Mighty Fudge. What do you do? I don't know. What do we do? I know exactly what we do. We make shit blow up. We blow up cartoon squirrels. That's what we do. You want to do that? Call me.
And we make people laugh, right? And that's valuable.
Yeah, that's really it. I think it's funny because on that focus sheet, that's the one that came out at the end, was humor. What do we do best? We're funny. Everything we do is fun. So.
Well, man, it's really been exciting to see you go through this journey, and I appreciate all the just energy and enthusiasm for embracing so many of these concepts. I know you're obviously very much an encourager of your peers of like,
Yes.
you can make things better, right? Like you can turn that corner and you can reach for that next level. So
Yeah, and anybody who's watching this who hasn't done Jumpstarter or is kicking the tires, I kicked those tires for 2 years. Now I kick myself for not doing this 2 years ago. So do it. Best money I ever spent.
you're too kind, sir. Thank
Good
you.
plug.
Thanks for, yeah, exactly. I owe you one for that. Well, thank you, Patrick. Can't wait to see when the new site and all that stuff goes live. Yeah, you're awesome. All right, I'm going to unspotlight. I know we're a few minutes over, so I'm going to just wrap it up simply by saying this. First of all, thanks for being here. Thanks to all of my guests. You guys are awesome. I'm happy to stick around for a little while. If anybody has questions, we want to do some Q&A. Also, if you want more help, I'm making myself available for the next 3 weeks, carving out time on my schedule. If you go to revthink.com/apply, you can get some time with me or one of our advisors if you want us to help you apply some of these things and go do a deeper dive and get into some of the specifics of your business. So with that said, I'm going to check my chat here and see if there's any good questions, or does anybody want to raise a hand or drop a question in the Q&A gizmo? To my guests, if you guys want to stick around, that's great. I certainly don't expect you to because I know we're 8 minutes over. So if you have to run, no worries. Thank you for being here. You are awesome, each and every one of you. Let's see here. Let me see. Does anyone see? Yeah, we do have a Q&A gizmo here at the bottom. See if anyone's dropping any questions in here. I'm going to troll the chat as well and see if there's any good questions here. Yeah, cool on thought process, right? Pure effing gold. Yes. Oh, thank you for that feedback on the 3R talk. Yes. Jay, thanks for being here, man. Good to have you with us. Someone was saying here, one of my favorites and most life-changing talks at Digital Design Days in Geneva. Wow. Thank you, Mimosa. That's very cool. Okay, great. Any of my guests? Here, Roxy. Here we go. She's got a question for us. Let me stop sharing my screen so you can see my face. 2 questions. One from Roxy. Hi, Roxy. Nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me into the process of helping our friend. Your question was, what are your thoughts on sales reps? Sales reps, it's a challenging topic because I have a love-hate relationship with sales reps. My overall principle that I espouse, that I teach, is that sales is not something that you can readily delegate until you first understand it yourself. That is not delegating, that is abdicating. So my encouragement is sales reps can be great as a way to augment when you're already strong in sales. You might want to move into a particular vertical, region, some area where a rep has a lot of relationships and is going to go do work and bring you extra work. But when you call a rep and say, we need work, you're really setting up a bad relationship. It's almost like you have to be strong at sales and then it's time to reach out to a sales rep. I know that sounds contrarian, and it is, but I would just say I find a lot of creative people, they say they hate sales, but the truth is once you understand what sales really is, I think each and every creative person will enjoy the sales game once you really understand what it takes to do it well. It's a great question, though. Sorry, I don't have a better news. Like, yes, sales reps are great. I would also say sales reps are declining. Over time, more and more middlemen are being pushed out of the system, and it's right. Sellers want to buy from the sellers. Buyers want to buy from the sellers. Yes. Thanks for the question. All right, Kip has a question here. How do you reposition yourself to a longtime client with a new name change, etc.? Kip, you might elaborate here. How do you reposition yourself to a longtime client with a new name change? I think what you're saying is if you're going to change your name, how do you deliver that to your client? How do you present it? Is that the question? Let's see if Kip chimes in with a follow-up. Well, what I would say overall is whenever you're repositioning, you're getting clear about who you are and what you do. And that clarity is often scary because you feel like you're getting narrow and you're saying no to all of these other things out in the world. My encouragement is twofold. One, when positioning is narrow, it penetrates. So like when Eric shared his new positioning for Coupe, it made you curious, right? It's easy to remember because it sticks in your brain. So that's really powerful. It's a great way for you to meet people and be immediately inspire curiosity, and start a conversation that positions you as an expert. But the other thing I would say about narrow positioning is just remember, it's always okay to accept work that's outside of your positioning. Just don't pursue it. Just don't pursue it. Don't put it on your website. But when that client calls you and they say, well, it looks like you guys only do this one narrow thing, right? Like, Patrick, you guys just blow up squirrels. Is that all you do? And they say, can you also do like a 30-second commercial of an animated whatever? He just laughs and says, oh, yes, of course we can do that. But I want you to notice, you'll never get the first meeting if you don't have great positioning, because you're just one of 1,000 companies that all look and sound the same. So what do you want? Do you want that one great meeting where you stick in that person's mind and they think, I'm gonna call Roxy, right? I'm gonna call Kip. I'm gonna call Patrick, because they're the person that does that thing. That's the win. All right, another great question here from Mr. Andrew Sorley. Hey, Andrew, any thoughts on growing with a client and teaching them about how much things cost now versus what they cost when they were with you in the early days? I have a great relationship with a client who would hire us for $2,500 8 to 10 years ago. I had a talk today about a $30,000 scope, and they just had the hardest time wrapping their head around it. Well, the short answer is no. Don't try and educate your client about your costs. I know. Why did I just say that? I find that as a creative firm, whenever you are educating, informing, explaining, you're losing. Okay, instead, the shift really is, first of all, you have to make this transition from charging for inputs to charging for outputs, and then ultimately charging for, we'll call it value, which is more like results. So right now, you might have 8 to 10 years where you've been charging that client for inputs, meaning hours and rates, time and rates. Now, going to that client and saying, we're no longer going to charge that way, we're just going to give you a fixed number for a project, is a big shift. But do it. Do it. And if they're not comfortable doing it, I would say you have to replace that client. You just do. And I would say this too, 8 to 10 years, dude. I mean, in this day and age, that is very rare. Now, somebody would say, but having a client for 8 to 10 years is great. And I would say, sure, it's great. There's also a side of me that would argue that's too long. I mean, you have grown and changed your expertise, what you do, the genius that you exercise has totally changed in 8 to 10 years. But that client still sees you as that young kid who I used to work with back in the day that could do all this, that, and the other for $2,500. Rather than trying to reset that expectation, me personally, I would just go get a new client. And I know that's hard. I know I sound very, callous, but I'm just telling you, in my career, when I was running my studio, I had a day in my career when I realized all the great clients are not in my local market. I'm going to go to New York, and I'm going to work with entertainment companies and TV networks and big brands. And I did. And my company it was a total game change. So I would say, rather than trying to fix the past, create the future. That's my thought. All right, you're welcome, Andrew. Thank you for the question. That was great. If anyone else has a question, feel free to drop it in here. Some good comments here. Hey, Mr. David, good to see you in here. Thank you for the feedback. You're saying here, it's so true about long-standing clients. I have a great difficulty explaining to clients my rates aren't the same as 10 years ago. Yeah, this is where I would say that as a creative company, you're always going to have maybe 10 to 12, maybe 14 clients. at any one time. Even if you're a $10 million a year company, maybe even 100 million, you're still going to have 10 or 12, maybe 14 clients that are the overwhelming bulk of that money. So which ones do you want? Do you want the 10 that know you from 10 years ago that paid you this much back when that was the going rate or that was the price you charged? Okay, a certain amount of churn and turnover is healthy because guess what? When you reposition as an expert and you meet a new client, guess what you get to do? You get to tell a whole new story. And they have no evidence to the contrary. You can walk in and tell them, we are the most award-winning, we produce Super Bowl commercials, and we're the greatest experts at X, Y, and Z. And you know what they're gonna say? Wow, nice to meet you. And you say, yeah, by the way, we're really busy and we're really expensive, but we would love to talk to you. It's a great way to start a relationship. Okay, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the thoughts. All right, I think we should wrap it up here. We're about 17 minutes past our time. Appreciate the few questions that people jumped in here. I hope the conversation today was helpful and constructive. I'll share the screen one more time in case somebody wants to, if you do want to chat with me or an advisor on my team, just go to revthink.com/apply. And I will say this, hats off to, let me get all my list of names so I don't forget anyone, because I want to thank everybody that was here today. So thank you to Tristan and Jaime from Studio Black, now known as Thought Process. Thanks to Eric at Coupe Studios. Thanks to Brian and Karen at Bottle. Thanks to Val and Cristina at Brazilero, and thanks to Patrick at Mighty Fudge. You guys are amazing. It is my honor to play a part in each of your stories. It truly is my joy and my thrill to do it. So thank you for watching this presentation. For most of you, you're members of our community. If you're not, you should join. If you're an owner, please join Rev Community. You'll be there with about 300 of your peers that are helping each other on a daily basis. And for many of you, hopefully I'll see you on an upcoming call and we'll chat about your business. Thanks again, everyone. Bye for now.